coming.
There.
Here we are.
Hey guys, we're here, right?
We are
Happy
here.
holidays!
Hi.
Welcome to the Virgin Authors Show. We are three friends bonded by our love of writing, struggling to navigate that publishing world and offering tips to new writers. I'm Jana Vandelar, and we'd like to say welcome to our holiday episode.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mandy McGuire.
And I'm Lissa Reese. I am so pleased to introduce tonight's guest. JJ ELLIOTT is author of the marvelous novel, There Are No Rules for This, her first book. She is working already on her next story, and thanks to her longtime job as a freelance copywriter, she writes constantly. In that role, she has penned everything from national television ads to urinal stickers. We're going to circle back to that later.
I didn't read that before. Okay.
JJ grew up in Northern California, received a degree in English from UCLA. She now lives in the San Francisco Bay Area with her husband, 2 teenage kids, and 2 gassy bulldogs. She loves to read, play tennis, drink wine, and eat cheese. Thank you, JJ, for being here tonight, and I hope you have a glass of wine handy.
Talk to us. Yay, JJ. I have
a Wine Wednesday, babies.
Whiskey ginger girls. Okay, go ahead. It's a holiday.
We're so glad to have you.
I'm so glad to be here, you guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
And
Before we talk about
online and audio. Sorry, guys. Go ahead. I'm
that's
sorry.
okay.
Sorry.
Before we talk about JJ's book tonight, I just want to recognize that this is our 35th episode of the Virgin Authors. Yay! We're so excited about the work that we've been doing, and I just wanted to find out from each of you what was, your most favorite thing in 2023. I'll go first. For me, it is absolutely just the people that I've met.
Yeah.
I feel like for whatever reason, I don't know if it's just because we're on Zoom or just because we are writers and we found our sisters together. But I feel like so many people became friends, like Jerry Russell, Rebecca Olmsted, Nina Schuler, Katie Russell Newland, and Ann Keene, Noelle Salazar, and our wonderful Anne Garvin. And I also got to meet Brenda Janowitz, which is one of my brand new favorite author friends. And just to name a few, because everyone, and I can't forget Nancy Nagel. She was my first
right. She's so fun.
My big one that I was so happy to get, and they having them support our show has just been wonderful. And what else? What about Lissa?
Okay, well, and also the Zibby Media authors have been the loveliest people. I feel so lucky to have met them.
Amazing.
Alicia Fernandez Miranda, Mary Otis, Megan Tatey, Jane Delory, Michelle Wildgen, Emma Gray, Megan Jarvis. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for allowing us to read your books in advance and have the opportunity to help you launch them into the world. And really, I love the opportunity to walk up to my favorite authors at a writing conference or send them an email and invite them to come on the show. Doing the show, it's given me an excuse to say hello, and it's made me so much braver. And that is how I got to know JJ. I read her book and I wrote a review, and then I contacted her and invited her on the show, right, JJ?
Yeah, and we had a phone call. You were like, I want to talk to you about the book. I'm like, okay, great. Let's talk about it.
Wonderful.
How about you, Jana?
Well, I'd have to say, I mean, it's true. Everything that you guys all said, 100% agree. Let's just say it's impossible to choose. I'd say, but one, like if we're going to say an episode, one of my favorite episodes was number 18. If you guys want to look on YouTube or on our website. No, number 18, it's our birthday anniversary celebration. We just kind of combined. It was our 1-year anniversary back in March. And you can still view it, like I said, on YouTube or on our website, but we wore tiaras, which you can tell we're all into our hair things. Candles, we had many supportive artists all on at once instead of just one that we were highlighting. But it was just such a great show because everybody showed up for us. And that was as special as always. They're all great. However, as we've all said, we've loved every one of our episodes and our authors. And by the end of each show, we just feel like we've known each other. Like JJ, I just want to hold your hand already. Anyway,
that's awesome. Well, JJ, thanks for letting us interrupt some of your book time to chat about that. We've had a wonderful 2023.
Love it.
And I just wanted to say, I was sitting in my masterclass at the copywriters conference this year, which we all have been to and recommend. And I really kind of freaked out like a little giddy girl as everyone was going around the table introducing themselves. And this blonde beauty just says, her name. And I was like I was all a Twitter in my chair. I'm like, it's JJ. I had never met her. She didn't know me. And I was just like all a Twitter. It was so funny. And then when it came around to me, I was like, like, like it was so funny. And it was just so great to see you and meet you. It just felt like an instant connection. So again, thank you for coming. And can you talk to our readers, tell them just a little bit about your wonderful book here?
Yeah, it's such a
Yes, of course. So there are no rules for this. Is about 4 women, best friends in middle age, kind of, which is where I'm at. Maybe
there.
a little later. And they are kind of each other's family outside of family. And the one of them that seems to have it the most together dies very unexpectedly by suicide. And so the rest of the women, as part of their grieving process, decide to hold their own funerals while they're still alive. They just never want to have that moment pass where they weren't able to share something with a friend after they lost their one best friend. So, and it's not all sad. It definitely it toggles back and forth between present day when they're grieving and then past tense when they are having their more happy times together. So it's not a book that's going to make you sit and it will probably make you cry, but it will probably also make you laugh. And at the end, I think it's a book that really celebrates women friendships and how important they are, especially as we age.
Absolutely.
So I reviewed this book on my website back in May, and I said this beautifully written book caused me to re-examine the nature of my friendships, my episodes with grief, and the difference between acceptance and denial. And I think it will hit readers differently depending on their current relationship to grief and particularly to suicide. And JJ, what prompted you to tackle this subject?
I'm curious. Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, a personal story. My mother died by suicide when I was 17, and she very much was that kind of vibrant. I'm pretty sure she was undiagnosed bipolar. And so what was probably manic was very magical as a child. I was an only child at that time until I was 14, and it was very fun and exciting, and she was full of ideas and fun things to do. And then but then in retrospect, she would sleep a lot during the day or like not remember to pick me up at school, and she didn't have a job. So like as a parent, as an adult, I'm like, oh yeah, that's not normal. But I didn't know, as a kid, and I was only a child. So but after she died, I very much wanted to try to understand the suicidal mindset better, because I needed to understand how this happened to me and to my mom. And so as part of that, I did a lot of reading. I read a lot of poetry from like Anne Sexton and Sylvia Plath, which we read in Kauai, which I was like, oh my gosh, I mean, it's beautiful. And I did therapy, obviously, and I worked on the hotlines, the suicide hotlines in LA. So I just felt, so when the idea for this book came to me, which was very much later, I felt like I could handle it authentically, if that makes sense. Like so it wasn't, I don't know what inspired what, other than just the idea bubbled up to me one day, like of 4 friends and one dies by suicide and the rest have their funerals while they're still alive. And I felt at least comfortable wading into those waters and being able to talk about that and write about it authentically, which I don't think is done well very often, because I think there's a lot of suicide in both fiction and on screen that is very much kind of like a part of the plot, and then there's like there's like a whodunit almost, and like what's the letter, or there's a, you know, and I just, it's not authentic to the subject to me.
No, and you
No,
have
and
such
you can't
background.
boil
Yeah. Go ahead, Liz. I'm sorry.
you can't boil it down to a single reason, why did they, and I remember I had a very dear friend who died by suicide, and I was shocked and devastated, and there really was no why. It was just, it really comes back, I think, to mental health in general, and the masks we feel compelled to wear in order to go out and be in society.
You know,
Which
I'm
I think
actually right
that's
now I'm
pretty
reading the
common.
book Hello Beautiful, which is it's just in hardback. I think now it's Anne Napolitano. And in it, there's a main character that attempts suicide. I haven't finished the book, but I think she does a really good job of talking about he just felt completely lost, and like he lost his, you know, people talk about it as a selfish act. I think people who are at that place have lost their sense of self. They don't have any sense of self anymore. That's almost like a loss of ego, to the point where you just don't know what else to do, you know? So, anyway, I thought she did a really good job.
That's an interesting, we'll have to look at that too, but with your background, your backstory with all this, I'm sorry about your mom, of course, we all are, but of course, but the working on the hotlines, I mean, you've heard everything. So what a history, and that shows through her book, you guys. I loved how all these women relied on each other to get through grief. I love that about women, you know, when you can find that bond. I was conflicted a little bit with Allie for pushing away her husband. I understood that though, because I went through when I lost a baby, I was like, yeah, get the heck away. You know, you just don't, yeah, you just don't trust anything. You don't want anything. Anyway, I worried that she might lose her marriage because of the way you write it. She might lose her marriage because of the way she dealt with her loss. What prompted you to have her do all that? I mean, did you have a personal thing? Like, I mean, because I understood it when I was reading
Yeah,
it.
no, it's funny. I've gone to a lot of book clubs, and Allie is like, this whole thing is it is controversial,
Yeah.
which I kind of love. I'm like, that's why we write books and why we read books, right? Like, I'm not saying that this is what someone should do. I'm just, this is what this character did, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and then I've also been to book clubs where someone would be like, I mean, I hated her. I was so mad. And then like the next girl was like, I'd do the same thing. And so I'm like, this is exactly why we read and we write, right?
Right.
Well, the thing that I think is important to remember, or at least for me when I was writing that character, was that she is the one out of all of them that has never experienced any loss or grief. Like, she's got both her parents, her kids are great, her marriage is pretty great. Like, she's not, whereas Liddy has experienced trouble in her marriage, and she's got a kid with special needs, and Max has been dealing with mental health issues her whole life. So Allie was really the one that was the most like blown back by that bomb going off, really, in the sense where everything's off for her. And she, she kind of pushes it away, like her, I think she's actually realizing that she might have been too invested in her relationship with Feeney and not really paying attention to it.
Good book club discussion. Yes, I like that.
So I think that there's something to that. I think that she was a little bit in love with her, like, not, platonically, just kind of like, she was really leaning into that friendship. And then when that friendship was gone, she was like, what am I supposed to do now? With these people that I'm left with, who I love, but they're not the same. They're not her, right?
No, that's a really good take on it. Like, my take was, because of my personal experience, was that I could be mean or angry with him because I knew he'd be there.
That too. Yeah. I
Right.
think
Yes.
she knew
I mean,
he
that's
wasn't,
what I kind of got a little here too,
she
but that
wasn't
was a
going to
really good
push
take
him
on you
away.
then.
Yeah.
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 Well, I really liked the structure of your book. I like the structure of the chapters.
Yeah.
How you share the memories, where you had the memories of the friends together, and then followed by these present day scenes. It helped me kind of move through it, as with some hope that it was such forward movement. Can you talk about how you came up with that structure?
the idea for this book and like the first 30 pages came to me almost like they were downloaded. I can't explain it any other
Wow.
way because I'd never had any. I was a copywriter. I'm a huge reader. Never in my life was I like, I want to write a book. It wasn't a thing I wanted to do. And then I was at work one day and the idea came, and then I was like, well, that's interesting. Why don't I spend a little bit of time like thinking of, like, why don't I take my laptop to like a wine bar and like spend a few, an hour, and it like the characters came. It was crazy. So I can't explain that. And the beginning of the book and then the first flashback were what came pretty quickly. So it was almost like that's how the book wanted to be written. I can't really explain it the other way.
I believe in that though. Sometimes
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
happens, and it's organic, and it's a really
Yes.
way. I mean, there's people that do the storyboards, which I'm not that good at, but I do a strong outline usually. But I do think the outline even comes organically. So I mean, and the storyboards, that's what they do. But it's great that you embraced it and you went to the wine bar and you
Kind of had to. It was like, okay, this is how it.
Yeah.
And I'd never written fiction before, like I said, so it was all a new experience for me. So I was just like taking it, and at the time I had no vision of publishing it even really. It was just kind of like I had my amazing therapist who's been my therapist for 20 plus years and still my therapist. She's amazing.
Wow.
Was the one who said, what we were in therapy, and she was like, I had little kids at the time, and she's like, what do you do for you? And I said, what do you mean? Like, I was like, I'm like, I take baths, and she was like, no.
What did you good?
And then I was like, she's like, well, what did you do before you had kids and like were married and stuff? And I was like, well, I used to write like for me, but I was a writer for clients. And so
Right.
it was like, well, it was just this moment where like, she was just asking these simple questions, but it was like life-changing for me because I was like, oh my God, I used to write for pleasure and I don't do that anymore because I write for money. And like, that's great. But so it was shortly thereafter that this all came about. So it was, and then I was just like, I'm just going to do this for my own, passion project. And I was not thinking about publishing at that time. So that's how it all.
Lucky you did. I mean,
How long ago did you start that first night at the wine shop? How long ago was that?
I think it was like 9 years ago. It was like
9 years.
2014, I think.
I think that's a great message for all of virgin authors who are listening, like to listen to your heart, to just jump right in. And, even if it doesn't sound like it's, you feel like you're breaking the rules or, that's not what the industry leaders tell you to do. Just do it. Just write.
Yeah. And I felt like throughout the process, it was like these little breadcrumbs. Like it wasn't ever, oh, we're off to the races. It was like, I started the book. I finally admitted after like a while, not a while, like a few months, I admitted to my husband that I was writing a book. And
I've done that bit too. Yeah.
He was like, well, you should go on a retreat. And I just read Laura Munson's book and I knew she had a retreat. So I went to a retreat in 2015 and then she believed in the book. And then it was like so my point is like, it was never a straight shot. It was like just these little breadcrumbs that I followed and I just kept doing it. And it's, not every day by any stretch of the imagination, but, along the way over the years.
I forgot we had that connection with Laura Munson.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll talk about that later. Okay.
I want to give you some feedback as a reader because I found the book profound. I really did. And so at first I was really envious of the friendship that these women have. And I wonder how many of us are lucky to have that kind of connection every day. And I remember one of the first things I asked you was whether you had this and you said no. And I kind of felt a little better. Sorry, but
well, I said I do, but not in like that one. I don't have one.
Yes. Well, so it made me nostalgic because I've lived in this neighborhood where I am for 20 years. And when I first moved in, everybody was new and we all knew each other because we were all new. And I, there were people who dropped by without calling and people who I had keys to their houses so I could look after their cat when they were out of town, you know, and the problem with Hawaii really is that people move away and you have to reinvent your social life like every 5 to 7 years, and it's hard.
Very
But
difficult.
I want to thank you because I kind of, because of that social life thing and because I have issues with social anxiety, I did the opposite of Allie. I leaned too far into my marriage. And I started worrying about, you know, having all my eggs in one basket, as it were, you know. And after reading your book, I reached out to, you know, to old friends, because with this whole Zoom thing, we don't have to be next door to each other anymore to have a genuine friendship. And so I did. I strengthened old bonds, and I appreciate that because
Yeah, well, the book is almost like you're part of
the world,
the
right?
book is almost like it's part of you're part of the friendship too. You just get sucked into it. And so it's like that. It kind of reteaches you to be a friend and to, you know, it's really well done. So no, it's a gift. And that kind of friendship I've always really appreciated. And so I think you really said it the best way. One of the most interesting things that I need to have everybody know before we run out of time is, and it's not too much of a giveaway, but one of the,
interesting.
yeah, is that you had the 3 surviving friends plan and attend their own funerals. And then you had a quote from Katie Couric, who loved your book. She said it was, what did she say? You can tell me, because it was like the book of the year or something. She was like raving about how great this book was.
Wasn't book of the year. That'd be great.
I had it. I didn't quote that. I should have quoted, but the quote she said too is, yes, you will want to hold a living funeral after you read this book. And where did that idea come from? That is really,
again, I honestly, it all came, it bubbled up all in one little mind balloon. I can't explain it. It was like 4 women. And even when I started writing those characters, the characters came to me so powerfully and so individually. And then it actually made the rest of the book easier to write, because it was almost like, I'm just going to put these women in a situation and they're going to tell me what they're going to do, because I'm not the one playing dolls. I'm not like they have their own distinct personalities, and they're going to do what they're going to do. And I just need to put them in a situation. And it was really fun. And not to say it was always easy, but it was, they told me what, like, I kind of followed them around, if that makes sense.
That's fun.
Yeah.
I want to work with you. I want to do like
Organic.
exercises together and stuff.
Sure. Well, and
It's
actually, I'll
a
tell you that
dream
one
when
of
it
the
works that way.
yes, it was, yes. And when I was I have to credit Laura Munson. When I was at her Haven, the first Haven retreat, I went to 2 of them. The first one, she said, if you're writing a book and you have characters, here's a fun exercise. It wasn't one of the ones we did in the retreat. She was just like, do it on your own. And it was like, take your characters, however many there are, and have them all have the same thing happen to them. Put them all in a similar situation and write what happens. Like, and she said, like, for instance, they're getting pulled over for a speeding ticket. And I went that night and I wrote all my characters getting pulled over by a speeding ticket, and they were
all how they would individually react.
What they would do. And it was like, it was so fun. And it was so, it was such a, I don't know, like, realization that I really knew these women and what they do in a like intense situation. Like one, you know, Max would flirt and then, you know, swear at them if they didn't let her off the hook. And, you know, Liddy would cry maybe, and Allie would just take it, you know, like, and Feeny would like get out of it no matter what. Like, she's never gonna, you know, she's probably never had a speeding ticket in her life. Anyway, it was just like, it was a really
interesting concept. I love that idea. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you, Rebecca Munson.
Yeah. That's really great. Laura Munson. Yeah. And that's really great. That adds right into that. It's another tip that we learned in Kauai with the same thing. So if you take JJ's characters and you write different ones, if you're not sure on like first person or third person, they said write that exact same scene with a first person or a third person to see how it would feel. And I did that in Kauai and read some of those to Lissa one night. And it was a fascinating like exercise. And I was like laughing. It was really fun. And I came up with these really old drunk grandmas at a bar. And it was just a silly exercise. It was so fun.
I love drunk grandmas at a bar.
Like they were on the ground drunk grandmas at a bar.
I love them even
It was
more.
so good. And I don't write like that, but that's a great exercise. We have lots of tips in this episode. That's so great.
About your book. It's a great book. Yeah, it just brings it.
So before we go, we want to kind of talk a little bit about our favorite books this year. And I know we probably will run a couple minutes over, but we'll try and go really quick. And we just want to talk about what our favorite books are of 2023 that we read. And I have two, The Secret Life of Flora Lee, or The Secret Book, I always say that wrong, of Flora Lee by Patty Callahan Henry, and then Wild Game, I can't really see if I'm on here, My Mother, Her Lover, and Me by Adrienne Brodeur. So I just want to say what they are really quick. So, and why I loved them. So this one of Flora Lee is about two sisters that are like young girls, and one of them goes missing. And they grow into grown adult women, and there's a secret book that brings them together again, or the secret together. But the reason I love this, and JJ and Listen know, these were both our teachers in Kauai, and I did not pick the books because of that. And so it's really interesting that they're my favorites. But The Secret Book of Flora Lee, it reads like music. Like it's just very melodic, and it's lovely writing, and I was hooked from the beginning. And then this one, Wild Game, that My Mother, Her Lover, and Me, is a memoir about Adrienne, and her mother woke her up at the age of 14 and told her that Mr. Smith, I don't remember the name, kissed her. And both her mother and Mr. Smith were both married to different people. And it's this amazing story. And again, the reason I like it, I read it when we left Kauai, and I think that Adrienne handpicked every single word. Like it's the exact right word in every single sentence. Like it's magical writing. And so you read them so lovely and quickly, and yet they're just masterpieces. I love them. They're my top. So thanks for letting me gush. And as women, they are the most lovely women. It's amazing.
Cool. Interesting.
Okay. JJ, aside obviously from your book, what did you love this year?
I didn't. Well, if I read my book this year, it was proofreading.
We get it,
I
girl.
read that book too many times. Well, what I did do is actually listen to it for 8 hours because for the audiobook, which I was actually a lovely experience, because hearing it read back to you by like a beautiful voice is actually incredible. So that was great. I would say, well, I just finished Leave the World Behind, which I know is very hot right now because it's and I'm sorry I didn't bring my.
I know, I was looking for my books as she was talking. I'm like, oh, I didn't.
Hold on, I can actually get it. One
I
second.
think it's a Netflix show right now with Julia Roberts.
Which one was it called?
It is a next Netflix show, but
oh my God, yeah, I've been hearing.
I'm going to tell you. Read the book and don't watch the movie.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
This book was so good, and it's a writer's book.
Yeah,
you will, as a writer, like I just kept being like, oh my God, I can't believe what this, and it's short, it's not very long, but like what's done in this book, just the author's choices are like chef's kiss. And
wow.
And it is so tense, and yet not a lot happens, and that is so hard to do. And then when I went to watch the movie, they totally, it's like they swapped, it's like everything's happening. And it made it so much less tense and so much less interesting to me. Like, I was just kind of like, oh, like I don't give a shit about that anymore. Like this was so like the tension, like what he did in this book, it was amazing.
All right,
like we have lots of good writing.
Book.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No,
No.
my 3 books couldn't be more different, and none of them was actually written this year, but I'm not always up on the latest, greatest. They've all been written within the past couple of years. But The Rose Code by Kate Quinn, about the female code breakers in
Cool.
World
I
War
haven't
II.
read it. Okay.
Oh my gosh, was
All
that
right.
fabulous.
Okay.
And then The Glass Ocean by Beatrice Williams. It's a romantic historical mystery. It has 3 different narrators, and it goes back and forth in time between present day and the Lusitania, the passenger
Oh,
ship that was
yeah, yeah.
doomed. So
Yeah.
it's really fabulous.
Wow. Okay.
And then the third one is a fantasy. It's called The Starless Sea, and it's by Erin Morgenstern. And actually, all 3 of these I listened to on audiobook, so I don't have anything to show you. But
I love these, yeah.
I've just recently come to enjoy audiobooks. So this one, it's an ancient library that is set in a secret underground world, and it is so
Mm.
it's so dimensional. I just like I can't. I'm so fascinated by authors who can write these sweeping fantasies with so much different stuff going on. It's like I have my little stories, you know.
No, you don't. You kind of go into that, girl. So
Yeah.
I'm
Jana, before you go, I want to say, Lisa, I
no.
didn't know that you read Beatrice Williams. I just discovered her this
Oh.
year, and she's one of my absolute favorites. I went to the used bookstore and bought 6 more of her books.
Oh,
Oh my
wow.
gosh, have you read
She's
The
all
Glass
over.
Ocean yet?
Yeah, yeah.
No, but
Oh,
she's
you're gonna love it.
really wonderful, like amazing.
Yeah, when you get a good writer, you get a good writer, which I'll segue into that because Noelle Salazar, we actually interviewed her.
Love that
We
one.
fell in love with her. She's
Twice.
I think our only author that came back twice. And
Yes,
this is her
yes.
second book. The first book is what really sucked me in with her. It was called The Flight Girls. And it was so good. And I was with the airline, so I just loved it. It was about Pearl Harbor, but it was a women pilots, which was a really cool take on it, really interesting. And then this one, I even loved more. So I don't, you guys just
That's actually her third one.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
you're right.
She wrote another one in between. I can't believe how fast she
What's
pumped
the
What's the
out.
name of the
Yeah.
author? What's the name of the author?
Noelle Salazar. She's she was on our show, but she's just really good. She cranks them out, but they're well done. They're so well done and really
Very good.
really
Love
different from each
historical
other, you know.
fiction.
And then my other one, I really enjoyed Anne Garvin because I'm a humor
It was-
girl. And
It was
she
so
Anne Garvin,
good.
it was just a fun, it's just
Mhm.
sorry, I have my light flashing. It's just a fun one. It says there's no coming back from this by Anne Garvin, who's head of the Tall Poppy Writers, right? But she's it
That
was
was
just
really
it's
fun.
about Hollywood,
Hollywood.
and, you know, doing
The
the
costume designer in
right.
Hollywood. Yeah.
I just had fun with that one. It was just an easy one to read and it was really fast. But I mean, again, JJ, your book. I mean, you guys, we can't recommend it enough to anyone who's listening. It's just well done. And thank you for sharing it. Okay, so sorry. We did our books, which was hard because we love them all. You know,
We
so,
love them all. Yeah.
Sophie's choice. I understand.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so it looks like we're out of time. I guess I didn't know I had to do that. I was the last one to talk. Thank you so much for coming, girl. We appreciate you so much. We always say that at the end we feel like best friends, and I mean you were from the beginning. So I'm just gonna say thank you. And the book, you guys, again, pick it up. It's amazing. So
You can watch the past episodes of Virgin Authors here on Facebook Live. You can see them on our website or on our YouTube channel as well.
yeah.
And please also follow the links to our individual websites and reach out to us. We'd love to hear what you're struggling with, what your writing process looks like, and just stay in touch. Thanks for
Yeah.
tuning in. Have a great night.
Happy
Thanks,
holidays,
everyone.
everybody. Yay.
Bye.